Alright, so I've been wondering quite a bit lately about what a fusion between the Blue Eyes White Dragon and the Red Eyes Black Dragon would actually be like. Which I feel like is a pretty common thing among Yu-Gi-Oh fans. You've got these two super iconic dragons, which are in-universe counterparts, and it just makes you think, what if you put them together? What would that be like? How cool would that be? And I've got my own thoughts on the matter that I kind of want to share. So, first off, the name. And I really feel like there's no more fitting name for a fusion like this than Purple Eyes Gray Dragon, truly melding every aspect of these two dragons together. Maybe a bit clunky, maybe not necessarily as cool sounding. I think it sounds cool, but I feel like you couldn't get a more fitting name than that. Now, what about its stats? Arguably the second most important part of a monster. So what would those be like? And I see two options here. One, we go the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon and to a lesser extent Gate Guardian route where we add up the totals, but then because the actual totals would be a bit too high, we cut them in half. However, that leads to a monster with only 2,700 attack and 2,250 defense, which doesn't really scream Ultimate Dragon Fusion. So instead, I vote we go the more Red Eyes Fusion route of, well, kind of just pulling numbers out of our ass. It's kind of what they do for a lot of the Red Eyes cards, it feels like. So I feel like a fitting stat line for a monster like this would be 4,000 attack and either 3,500 or 3,000 defense. Sorry. Which I feel like makes sense because it's weaker than the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, a fusion of 3 dragons compared to a fusion of just 2, but it's still more powerful attack-wise than a lot of the Red Eyes fusion cards, which again I feel like makes sense since the lore around these cards is that Blue Eyes represents power and Red Eyes represents potential. And speaking of that potential and power parallel, try saying that 10 times fast, what would its effect be like? That is arguably the most important part of a monster in modern-day Yu-Gi-Oh! Actually, why am I even saying arguably? That just is the most important part of a monster in modern-day Yu-Gi-Oh! So what are we doing for an effect? Well, I feel like as a part of its effect, it should always count as both a Blue Eyes and Red Eyes card so that it still benefits of the support of both archetypes. It can still be used in either deck without it being unsupported. But beyond that, what? Well, you could maybe also toss something in where it counts as both light and dark attribute at all times, or something I kind of want Konami to do is use the divine attribute a bit more, and this could be a situation where it makes sense. Konami, I doubt you're watching, but for the love of God, please give the wicked gods the divine attribute, or make them divine beasts. They need one or the other so that they actually feel important. Sorry, side tangent. But either way, beyond that, well, every modern-day boss monster in Yu-Gi-Oh! Needs your standard protection. And I feel like a pretty decent baseline protection for a monster like this, we could basically just lift the protection of Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon or Blue Eyes Alternative Ultimate Dragon and slap it on this fusion. Probably do it pretty good. Yeah, I really don't think you would need to go beyond that for protection. But beyond that, what about its actual effect? We don't just want it to be a beat stick, big monster on the field. We want it to actually do something so that your opponent starts to fear when you summon this thing. And, well, maybe not the most impressive. I feel like what I think could be cool is to take the effects of their 2 spell attack cards, so Burst Dream of Destruction. Sorry. And Inferno Fire Blast, and give this monster a modified version of those effects. Something like, you banish a Blue Eyes from the graveyard, then, ignoring the effects of your opponent's cards, destroy every monster on their field. And I feel like that part of ignoring their effects could make this monster really terrifying, which, again, I feel like could be pretty fitting for these 2 archetypes. And then, on the Red Eyes side, Red Eyes kind of likes to do a burn strategy, at least because of Inferno Fire Blast just being able to deal massive amounts of damage when stacked with, like, Red Eyes Fusion, making the fusion become Red Eyes Black Dragon. So I feel like a fitting effect for this would be banish a Red Eyes monster from your graveyard, then either deal the original attack of Purple Eyes Grey Dragon, which, reminder, would be 4,000, half the starting life points. Crazy. Or you deal damage equal to the original attack of the Red Eyes monster you banished, if you want to make it a little bit more balanced. Although, that does mean that the Blue Eyes effect would be way more busted. Which also, I feel like, kind of tracks with how support tends to be handed out to these two archetypes. I feel like either or could work. And then obviously, once you activate either one of these effects, Purple Eyes wouldn't be able to attack this turn, because that is the wouldn't be able to attack that turn, because that's the shared drawback of both of these cards. Although, I do think an interesting route you could take, which would make the monster really terrifying, is Purple Eyes is still able to attack, but if you attack after activating either one of its effects, you lose half your life points. So it's sort of a big loss, or a big risk, big reward of you can charge in and deal massive damage to your opponent after wiping their field or burning them, but you are at a loss if you do not end the game. Although half your life points is always a variable of, well, if I'm at full, yeah, that sucks. If I'm at empty, who gives a shit? I'm one hit away from dying anyway. But those are just my thoughts on what a Purple Eyes Grey Dragon could look like, and I like attempting to start discussions. So let me all know, let me know what you all think a fusion of these two iconic Yu-Gi-Oh cards could be like. What effect do you think it should have? Do you think it should have a different sort of name? I'm very interested in this topic, as you might be able to guess, so I'm very interested to hear what other people's opinions might be. Thank you for your time.